EmpauR would like to advise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander listeners that the following podcast may mention names of people who have gone before us into the stars and the dreaming. EmpauR acknowledges the Gimuy-walubrra indinji people whose traditional lands this podcast has been recorded on. We pay our respects to the ongoing cultural connection that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to hold with the land, sea and wind.
Welcome to our Torres Strait series podcast, where we share information about some Torres Strait Island cultural protocols through talking to elders, family members and caregivers. Today we hear from EmpauR, who has connection to the Samsep clans of Erub in the eastern islands of the Torres Strait. He was born on Thursday Island with family origins tracing back to Erub and the Kaguri Island Butchulla people. In today's episode, Through the Wisdom of Elders, we are honoured to hear from Erub Island Elder Uncle Poi Pensio and Badu Islander Bala Gerald Bowie.
On topic 1, unveiling beliefs and tradition, how can you give us an understanding on our topic this morning around belief and tradition?
Our beliefs is very different in terms of non-Indigenous people belief. For example, I would use a scenario in an aged care setting, a dietary for an Indigenous elder in your care. There are traditional foods and fruits and veggies and the different types of cooking, different ways of cooking, that it's good for the old people in your care. That will be good for the digestive system, the immune system. So we have different types of fruit and veggies and meats and fish that we cooked and different types and the different, season that you cooked and give it to our elders for the longitude of their life. So this is an example of the way we live are very different from a non-Indigenous setting. Even in terms of educate or passing information, our beliefs, an aged care worker, non-Indigenous individual or an organization, they must understand our way of living, our belief, our way of practice, our way of sharing information before you could ever start to look at how do you care for our elders.
Yeah, my name is Gerald Bowie. I'm from Badu. I'm from clan of Argan and Wakaid. My age, I'm 48 this year. I've worked in the government space for the last 20 plus years. My understanding of cultural wisdom, cultural advice. I'm coming from a very vulnerable people when you mention aged care. So we will protect that word aged care because it's vulnerable and our people are having difficulty understanding English stories at times because English is a third language. But it's very important, especially translating information that's important to our elders and our people in the elder space.
Considering the hopes and expectation of an elder like yourself, what guidance would you provide to a non-Indigenous carer to ensure they provide culturally sensitive care?
An advice I would give around the consideration and my expectations in terms of how you provide culturally sensitive care is you really need to understand our culture. You need to understand the way of life, the way of living, the way of passing information, the way our people communicate and how they accept you. So in terms of my expectation, unless the person that the caregiver looks after or giving care to are not accepting the patient, the client, or the client that accept them, that should be recognized at the forefront and look at other ways of providing the sensitive care. Because from an elder point of view, we need that care that given to us, it has to be appropriate in our rights and our sense. The advice would be the information in terms of care should be given to the caregiver by the family or by an elder in terms of how they're going to provide care to the families that's responsible for the person within your care. So there's 3 things I think the caregiver need to respect and understand about our culture. The first point is culturally acceptable. The acceptance has to come from both ways. The caregiver has to accept the patient, and the patient has to accept the caregiver, and trust and respect. It has to be accepted and established at the very outset before you can look at culturally appropriate terms of service provision. So those are the three key points I think you need to understand.
Well, when entering remote communities or remote indigenous people, these people need to undertake a number of serious training, and one of them is awareness training for Torres Strait and Aboriginal. Now, we do have our cultural policy, we do have our cultural standard, and we have our cultural guide. So it is important that these workers, co-workers, bosses, managers, they get appropriate training, and there's guidelines and principles in place in healthcare organization, because that's going to guide them through to do their job properly. And because I did mention about English as a third language, when you have this kind of guidelines, these people will have a full understanding of each criteria or each people, especially indigenous people. We have so much to offer, especially when communicating in different barriers.
All right, thank you. From your own, personal experience and stories of care and kindness, what some of the insights or recommendation would you put forward for a non-Indigenous carer to enhance and understand your practice and compassion for you people?
I suppose the first point would be to involve the family from the very outset along the continuum of care. The family has to be involved in all decision making, and the family need to involve in terms of some portion of caregiving in partnership with the caregivers. So there has to be a partnership in terms of the compassionate care, but the decision really need to be directed and given by the family, because too often in indigenous process of continuum of care, whereby the service providers and organizations are giving the care according to their policies and procedures, the red tapes so-called, because the system kills our people. So from my personal experience, working for government in terms of managing caregivers and service provision around managing policies and procedures, it's a threat to indigenous people. So in terms of practice of compassionate care, family and community has to involve 50% involvement in terms of provide service and care to our clients and our family.
Well, our elders is very powerful. So when we do look after our elders, in back of our mind, respect, we're going to look after them, and that's part of our belief, apasi, and kozan, been showing love, because these people, they hold values for traditional culture, and they be expecting that you got to respect them in many ways. So my recommendation is those two things I've just mentioned, it need to be implemented into guidelines for the co-workers that come in through. It's ensuring that they get looked after all the time.
As we wrap up this deadly episode, we've journeyed alongside our elders, gaining profound insights into the significance of caregiving as seen through the lens of their experiences, beliefs and hopes. We've uncovered a timeless legacy of caring with respect and kindness, passed down through the generations. Join us for future episodes as we continue to explore the intricate tapestry of caregiving and its profound impact on lives. Funding for this podcast has been provided by the Council on the Ageing Queensland Home Care Workforce Support Consortium, as part of the Home Care Workforce Support Program, which was funded through grant funding from the Australian Government.